So very quickly, round of intro. My name is Henry. I am a partner at Singular. We are a venture capital firm. We invest all across Europe at early stage in the best companies. And we are a very proud investor, lead investor in Aikido, and also the main shareholder.
Thanks for the money.
Yeah.
And the confidence, yes.
And Madeline, to say a few words about you.
Hey, nice to meet you all. I'm Madeline. I'm one of the co-founders and CGO at Aikido Security. Very much as Evan, I think, set a really great scene for this session. Not all of us are in big tech. Not all of us has Google's budget in order to both investigate what new threats there are, but also to prevent them. We started Aikido Security to essentially productize a lot of the conversation that you just heard. How do we build secure software? How do we build that fast? And what does it look like when maybe humans are not even the people that are writing software in the future? So yes, nice to meet you all.
Cool. Just before we dive in, quick show of hands, who has ever heard of Aikido Security? All right, so a few of you. Cool. Madeline, can you just summarize in a few words the incredible trajectory that you're on as a startup?
Cool. Yeah, we started Aikido 3 years ago. Actually, I prefer to tell the story like this. There's only 2 companies from Europe that have a valuation more than 1 billion euros that have a .dev domain. The first is Lovable, who is defining the future of software development, and the second is Aikido, who is defining the future of software security. We started 3 years ago. To date, we're the only cybersecurity unicorn from Europe in the software security space. We're 260 people strong and hiring, by the way, so come say hi if you're interested to join the journey. We're closing more than $1 million in net new revenue per week. We are securing the likes of Revolut or N8N or Legora and a lot of the new generations of European tech success stories, as well as more traditional companies to the NFL and the Premier League and the UK government, for example.
Cool. And also a quick words on Aikido is such a contrarian story. Like, we are here in Greece celebrating also the European ecosystem.
Yeah.
And usually when you talk security, when you talk AI and the intersection of them two, it most oftentimes happen in San Francisco, US, West Coast, or Israel. You guys started in Ghent, Belgium, in basically a village.
Yeah.
And now you're the fastest growing cybersecurity probably in the world. How?
Yeah, we started in Belgium, what I lovingly refer to as the armpit of Europe. And I think, yeah, I mean, as you said, contrarian would be the word I would describe it. Like, everything that we didn't fit the playbook of cybersecurity. And so if you guys are, any founders here raise your hand if you're a founder? Okay, so quite a lot. When we were fundraising, it was so difficult because people hear cybersecurity and they're like, oh, we have a cyber guy. There's always a guy, too. They're like, we have a cyber guy you should speak to. And that cyber guy is taught, cybersecurity is built and sold, top down to enterprise CISOs. You're going to own one problem that Evan, for example, spoke about, secure code or secure your open source dependencies or secure red teaming. You're going to do one of those things really well, stay in your lane, don't think about anything else, and you're going to be headquartered in Palo Alto and hire a really great team of Israeli engineers, who, by the way, are absolutely fantastic at cybersecurity. And we're like, hey, we're going to do a mid-market SMB play. We're going to sell to teams and companies that don't have any security software today, that maybe have never used a security software, or who have and feel that it's really too much for them or too overwhelming. We're going to do almost a consumer play. So our growth model is actually 85% via inbound or marketing-supported inbound, product-led growth. We have 15% of our revenue each month. Doesn't even speak to us. They put in their credit card to buy. And this is more than just we do software security differently. It's we completely changed the go-to-market model of cybersecurity. Different market, different ICP, different buying experience, different way you use the product. And we didn't do it on purpose, to be honest. We kind of didn't have a choice. We didn't have a network to sell into. We didn't know any enterprise CISOs to sell top-down into. And we weren't experts at an enterprise scale at any one of those specific issues. We knew what probably all of you guys need, which is, I need one place that makes this easy, because I know I need to be secure, and I don't have millions to spend on it, and I know I need to build fast, and so how can I just get this without the bullshit and be secure? And that's the story.
Gotcha. Yeah, not everyone is Google, and most companies still need to be secure and need a simple solution.
Like raise your hand if you're Google.
Yeah.
0. Yeah.
And so let's switch to like the new AI environment and how to get secure. Like there's pressure from engineering teams to ship code faster. Like AI writes a lot of the code. AI reviews pull requests. AI manages infrastructure. How do you secure such an environment? But now the throughput of what goes to production is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I will actually first challenge a little bit of the assumption of that question, if you will.
Of course.
I think a lot of you hear these metrics that we just sort of regurgitate, like engineering speed has now 10x faster. I mean, we're a pretty big engineering team. We're like 60% developers. We're a CTO-led company. We build a lot of software. I wouldn't say that our shipping, like the amount of code that we ship is actually 10x greater, because the bottleneck, you can, I mean, I don't think any of our developers actually write code themselves anymore. Maybe they like go in and like change one line and they're like, but no, it is highly autonomous. But it's still in, what do we build? How do we review it? Is this maintainable? Is this up to our standards? Does it fit the practices of our security team? So yes, there is a ton of pressure to ship fast. I don't think the reality of the matter is like people are spewing out like 10 to 20x more product to begin with. But if you are, maybe we should chat, because that's probably not going to be super secure. But to answer your question and kind of bring it to an end, you have to ultimately do the basics really well. I think Evan laid out a very pragmatic future with, if you're going to be moving fast and building with a lot more AI first, then you're going to have to secure it in an AI first way. There's no business feasible way that a human can and wants to. It's a very like demotivating job to review all of the code that not even the developer themselves read. So you need to have AI first code review, AI first code security review. You need to also look at, okay, how do we test this in production and test this at speed if we're going to be shipping that fast? I'm essentially saying you have to secure AI with AI, not to be super radical about that.
And how do you deal with the fact that now everyone, or a lot more people, have access to production environment? It used to be just engineers, but for instance, let's take the example of vibe coding.
Yeah.
A lot of vibe coders got hacked, and I mentioned this because Aikido has this native partnership with Lovable. So like, can you elaborate a little bit on this new attack surface, basically, as everyone is building their own little application?
Sure, absolutely. I think it's it's an attack vector, as Henri loves to say. It is an attack vector, but I think the conversation is, and a lot of our, actually even our more heavy enterprise customers, it's my shareholders are asking me what my answer is to AI, and so we're going to roll out a Lovable subscription or a Replit subscription or whatever to all of our employees. And you hear these stories about, Salesforce has internal competitions and token leaderboards because they're trying to encourage their workforce to become more AI native. And so people are trying to like AI-ify themselves. And so you have a huge amount of organizations, especially at the big side, but also at the small side, we'll talk about this in a second, that are just like building, vibe coding, even if it's something like a birthday calendar. But it could be also, for example, your own sales dashboard, or something that's more of a personal software to yourself. And that's being internet connected. And security teams are like, well, we can't even manage the actual things that we're building and securing. And now thousands of our team members are also going to be putting something on the internet. And the way you need to respond to that is we have to build security into the flow. So as software is built, or as software builds itself, vibe codes itself, how can we also enable that software to self-secure itself? And here we're talking about this future of a self-securing software, where you have these agents that, as code is being generated, it's also then looking for vulnerabilities in that code. It's looking for what is this code dependent on, and is that safe as well? It's going to be arguing with each other. Are you sure that's real? Are you sure? Let's test it. It's going to attempt to exploit those vulnerabilities in an actual near production or staging environments and say, this was right, and here's the fix. And so you have to have these kind of armies of agents that are able to, as software is self-generating, it's also self-securing. It's the only way I think that we can continue moving as fast as it seems the markets are forcing us to do, and continue to build and continue to AI-ify ourselves.
No, self-securing software is an interesting concept. You know, there used to be that infinite side for like the DevSecOps.
Yeah,
basically.
super cliche, but it's coming back.
Yeah, and what are the main like touch points that you see where Aikido delivers a lot of value for customers? Typically for founders here, you know, they secure their code, they secure their infrastructure. Maybe they try to secure, we mentioned before in this panel was mentioned supply chain. Like, what is that? Like, what are all the different things where you need to have your eyes on if you want to be fully secured?
I mean, we could go through them. It's a very long list. I think maybe to cut the list short, you could just use Aikido, sure. You could also use a lot of really great open source tools, or if you're like a solo builder, for example, just on like the code side, you can literally say, are there issues in this code? And probably it's going to be really good at finding those things. And the equation gets more and more complex as your repos get bigger, and then they're interconnected, and then where do they live in the cloud, and how is that internet accessible, and yada yada. But I think today, if you are worried about, if you are building software and you're worried about getting hacked, we can keep the list really short. Don't worry about all these new like attack vectors and things like this, even though I know you love the word. Get really, really good at doing the basics. You know, get your GitHub Actions security in check. Make sure that you have good like CI gates. Check and maybe have a bit of a firewall before you install packages or before agents install packages. A lot of the basics are just happening at a faster speed because build speed is happening. But you know, GitHub got majorly hacked last week because an individual human developer downloaded a malicious VS Code extension. Or Vercel got hacked, I think, earlier this month because an individual developer downloaded a malicious Chrome extension. Yeah. These are the basics. Get your basics in order, and don't worry about like new attack vectors and like the future of these agents communicating. Like, sure, let Google worry about those, or let Aikido worry about those for you. But today, just do the basics really well and get good at those.
Yeah. It is tricky for security teams who've already procured a bunch of security products, and then they see the news and they see that there's this new thing that they need to get. Hence, I think the rationale of consolidating everything onto a single platform where you need to have all the context so that the AI can also perform better, right? Yeah. Whether it's for the AI pen test, as was mentioned also before, red teaming automated, or any other kind of like scanners you can run on code or infrastructure.
I mean, the business of security is like theoretical risk. And especially enterprise security, it's like, well, what if we're using this and it can do that? And it's ultimately a risk calculation, and how do we potentially avoid that risk happening? I mean, it gets like so complex. But if you look at what causes the actual breaches today, it's probably missed basics. So like, not to beat a dead horse because I've repeated the point, but there's novel stuff going on, and there's novel solutions to old stuff. But the amount of like debt in the security industry today, the amount of things that like, I mean, listen, are all your passwords the same?
I'm using
probably, by the way. He's going to try to lie because we're on camera, but they're all probably the same, right? And that's most likely the way that you personally are going to get hacked. And you know you need to do it, but you're probably not. And every time you put in your password, it's like, your password was found in a data leak. And you're like, tomorrow I'll worry about that. And what's happening now is that tomorrow is becoming a very, very, very tight timeline, as the cost for the bad people to exploit that goes to zero. And now it makes sense for me to target you as an individual or even a smaller company. I don't have to just target Google. So all those, it can wait for tomorrow, just become a lot more urgent.
Yeah. And I think on this, let's talk maybe a little bit about Cloud Mythos that was released recently. There was a lot of marketing, like it's so powerful, we want to gate access. Like, how is that, you think, changing the world of security? Or how do you see that firsthand from the battlefield?
Mythos specifically?
Mythos specifically. I guess the conversations you have with customers or founders who are in the room that might be worried that they also become a target.
Yeah. We're doing one more of these raise hand things, and then I won't make you do it again. Who here is concerned about mythos? There we go. Okay, we have like 8 hands. I'm bad at math, but about 8. But it's probably the only thing you've heard of in the news if you're anywhere near development or security, or not at all. People are completely not in this industry who are like, models like Mythos will change the world. What I think about Mythos is this. One, if you work in a marketing function, take notes. That is an absolute masterclass on how you do a product release. It's too dangerous to release. We're only going to release it to a few people, and it's going to change the internet as we know it. I mean, obviously, that's going to create a lot of suspense and intrigue, and it was perfectly executed. Step two, what I think about Mythos is that model specifically is better at finding vulnerabilities and potentially also being used to exploit those vulnerabilities as the model currently, or predecessing it. But that is what it is. It is a step up. It is not a revolutionary new capability that will change the internet as we know it. And that's also been confirmed by, I think the JP Morgan CISO said the same thing the other day, so that's not an original thought. People that have their hands on this model, it's good, but it's the next version of what we see. But point three is it's not just Mythos. You can use any name for any available AI model. What is urgent and what can affect everybody at an SMB or startup or even an individual level is the accessibility of AI that is getting increasingly exponentially better at finding and exploiting or doing any tasks is not slowing down. And even the open source models, if we have this conversation in a year's time, can probably perform at a level that Mythos is today. I'm not going to hold myself to that timeline. But what happens when everybody has access to incredibly powerful tools at incredibly low cost, where you can potentially hack or try to phish or even chain together a very complex attack that executes itself overnight, or it's like script kiddie AI, whatever. It makes those I'll do it tomorrow really, really, really urgent, because any gap that you might have left is now easier to exploit. So it's not Mythos specifically. It's, I think, the wider topic of what happens when AI gets really good. Are we all fucked? You're not. If you can move fast to fix a lot of those gaps and just really focus on assume something will go wrong, so how fast can we fix it? And really, as Evan said, the point from A to B, that's the hard part. And what consists of that A to B and what's going to make it happen is organizational and mindset change. We need to think a bit differently. We need to allocate budget differently. We need to be able to just move fast when something happens.
Yeah. And for SMBs, are there some quick wins or best practices? Like typically the security market for them has been powered also by governance and certification, getting your SOC 2 Type 2, getting your ISO 27001. Those are mostly security checklists. Doesn't mean that you are secure as a business. What would you, recommend, small things that can easily avoid you 90% of the really, really bad stuff?
Yeah, if anybody's on Twitter these days or not, you've probably heard the supply chains are on fire. I wake up, another supply chain attack. What that's alluding to is NPM or any of the large package registries or even browser, again, going back to how GitHub was hacked, how Vercel was hacked, how a lot of people, unfortunately, became vulnerable, there's these big ecosystems in the open source internet that most of us are building on top of. That's probably the easiest way in for an attacker at the moment, and they know it. And so we actually have a lot of open source tools or free intelligence that you can use at no cost that also works really well for a small company. But yes, I would say use, for example, our SafeChain, which is an open source project. So you don't need to pay, you don't need to log in or anything like this. It's just going to wrap your CLI. So anytime you run npm install, which today feels like playing a game of Russian roulette, it's going to automatically block it if anything is suspicious. Or, for example, I know I would say those are the best things. Or lockdown. If you do have a team, maybe use an MDM and don't let them actually just install whatever 17th Chrome extension to automate emails as possible. That's really unsexy, but it's where a lot of the risk today is. Attackers are actively focusing more on it. We used to detect around 20,000 risky extensions and packages per day. Around 9 months ago. Today, with our own intelligence, we monitor the open internet for these risks. It's over 125,000 risky extensions and packages today. So that would be the easiest thing if you are building software, lock down what you're installing on your device and maybe use our open source project to help you. You don't have to talk to me about it or pay me for it. Yeah.
Cool. I think we're like just on time.
We are. Thank you very much for spending this time with us.
Thank you.